there's a lot of new people who are out, but there's a lot of old school breeders that we saw at MJ BizCon that I was shocked to see. The smaller guys having a footprint. Tiki Madman, shout out Tiki, was there. Of course, Seedsman's booth was there. They were there with their own genetics, which was really cool to see. You had Compound Genetics. There was Umami Seeds. There was
Barney's Farm.
I saw DNA Genetics was there.
Genetics,
Some of the
Sensei
bigger ones,
Seeds.
Exotic obviously was
Sensei.
there. But there was more people than ever with genetics that I've ever seen there. The vault was a separate section just for genetics.
Yes.
And I think now the appreciation of what's going to be hot, the masses are seeing. And MJ BizCon is something that it seems they're just getting hip to that. You guys notice anything new there, though, in terms of genetics that you were like, oh, this is the new hot?
I was going to say it for later, but I noticed that like a lot of people, well, some people did sort of say that some of the newer seed banks, some of the American-based seed banks are sort of taking over compared to the European ones.
Merc.
So some of the European ones jumped in, right? And they were so used to being the big recognized seed bank for so many years, and I guess they sort of lost the grip, and a lot of the newer people are up and coming. So you see a lot of the growers flocking to some of the newer seed banks, and I found that was pretty cool and interesting, you know? Like Royal Queen Seeds was out there, like you said, Barney's, a lot of these European seed banks. But I actually was passing by some people, and I just heard people saying that, and I was like, wow, just hearing what people say is pretty interesting.
Yeah, they've been there every year, so it's kind of like seeing the same old guys and same genetics and being able to see some new ones and directly the breeder themselves, not just someone who's a tester and helping out with the company. Seeing the breeders, that's a whole new thing, in my opinion, at MJ BizCon.
I think it's because, well, not only there's new owners at MJ BizCon,
That is true. It's still expensive.
which is big. It's still expensive. It's not really catered to the home grow, but I think you're starting to see a shift. There's a distaste out there for that corporate high THC malarkey that has no taste. It's got no terps. It's just bland. And I think now we're starting to see an appreciation for the homegrown passion of small breeders that are still looking for great taste, good quality. You know, the yield doesn't matter, but, you know, high yield wouldn't hurt. But it's like, that's not the number one. People want to get the good high. They want to get good taste. And I think that's coming back. And seeing, when we were at MJ BizCon, seeing that vault with all those breeders was absolutely epic.
Yeah. That was
and
the
there's
conversation.
Tons of great projects.
Flavor was the conversation. People weren't talking about THC or yield. They were saying this new flavor I'm looking for, the new smell I'm looking for, the new terp, essentially. There was no conversation at all about high THC. I think that was the cool thing is if you're still in this space, it's like the hardcores in crypto. You've gotten to the point now where your passion has pushed past your profit and you're still here. So you're willing to kind of put a little bit more effort into sticking around. And how you stay here, you're separating yourself in the pack is having something unique. So it wasn't awkward at all. We ran into Ben and Nat, but they're out there as well looking at what's new and hot. And these are guys who are traveling across the globe looking at new genetics. People who didn't have booths even were just there in the genetic area talking and mingling. I think for me, that's the excitement. We didn't see that before in years we were there. We saw Barney's Farm. We saw, what was the brand that had the freak show? Who was that?
That
The guy was Humble.
Humble.
Was that Humble?
Distributing.
Yeah,
They partnered with the guy who found
at the time, the
mutation
dude put it in my damn water bottle, whoever that guy was.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. But it was the bigger guys, you know what I'm saying? And like, so now you're seeing so many different people coming in, and I think it's changing the consumer's perspective of where genetics are. You're not being fed the same shit. There's a massive selection, and you go to this one booth for this specific reason. For me, still didn't see any gas. Wasn't gassy for me, anything, nothing. But
You got that Hulk's breakfast, bro. You got gas.
I was just gonna say, but I got something from you, so that's a positive. It's people know what I like, and I'm very limited, I feel, on my palate sometimes. But it was cool to see the diversified amount of breeders in the place there. I think that people who are home growers are, I guess we already know what it is, other than new growers. But the consumers aren't really hip to this shit. They're just getting whatever's hot in the market. It's like there may be something at MJ BizCon we found, or sitting at this table, that may be the next hot thing for 2025. I think people are sleeping on it, but the focus no longer now is the THC or just a big yield. They've realized that hunting that for years has kind of ruined the dank that they're after.
That's right. I feel like we kind of put ourselves, at dead end with chasing the THC. Now we kind of got to back up a little bit and get back on course of all the other cannabinoids, your CBGs, your CBNs, the stuff that we can really be benefiting from that we haven't really extrapolated from the plant at mass.
Yeah. Well, there's a study in University of Colorado Boulder recently did a video about it, gang. And they realized they did a test between two different groups. One was having low THC flower, one had high THC concentrate. They tested both the blood. Obviously, the blood THC level was higher for the higher THC group. But the testing they did between everybody, between cognitive and just their personal reception to the effect was the same or comparable. But they didn't really know the difference between either group. They pretty much realized that the certain threshold of THC that your body, your endocannabinoid system takes, and you're high. It is what it is. Yeah. But it wasn't just the THC that factored it. It was the cannabinoids that were in it overall. Little bit of a test that I feel could have too many variables to say it's for sure this one way or the other, but it shows that the THC isn't the only indicator of potency.
You know what I also found today is that people were asking interesting questions. And they were asking, what sort of strain is this and what sort of pack of beans is this in terms of where does it lean? Does it lean hybrid? Does it lean indica? Does it lean sativa? And a lot of people were either preferring an hybrid or a sativa leaning or indica leaning, and just knowing what it is. So that's also a decision-making factor when it comes to people selecting genetics, because you can have all sorts of genetics, and if you're a newbie, you're lost in a sea of genetics. You're like, well, I just want something that's going to give me the couch lock feel, or I just want something that I'm still going to be able to be productive and active and efficient with. So that is definitely a decision-making factor too. So I found that pretty interesting. I was just standing up by Seasman's booth actually, and a few people came past, and that was the question they asked, like, is this indica, is this sativa? And the guy had to explain that a lot of strains nowadays are actually hybrids. So you can get like an indica leaning hybrid or a sativa leaning hybrid, and he explained the differences to her, and she was like, okay, makes a lot of sense, and she went off along her merry way.
Guess I'm not getting anything. Oh, she got some beans.
She copped some beans, bro. She copped some beans. So it goes to show it really is a decision-making factor.
This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.